Systems change, if we have to define it, is the process of shifting the parts of a system and the interaction between these parts to form a new system that behaves in a qualitatively different way. Today, humanity is exploring systems that can learn by themselves, and artificial intelligence is an essential tool in this area. So, a symposium on systems change is essentially incomplete without a session on artificial intelligence and its impact on the field of education. So, our first keynote speaker of the day is going to talk about this topic, and he is Mr. Mekin Maheswari. Mr. Mekin is an engineer by education and has held entrepreneurial roles through his career, including head of technology and people at Flipkart. He is a founder at UDHYAM Learning Foundation and co-founder at GAME, the Global Alliance for Mass Entrepreneurship. The UDHYAM Learning Foundation does extensive work in the development of an entrepreneurial mindset among youth and children. In his keynote address, Mekin will be sharing his take on artificial intelligence, technology, and their impact on education and employment. Thank you for being here, Mekin. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. So first, just a bunch of disclaimers before we get started. I am no AI expert. The last I worked in areas of machine learning was back in 2005 or 2006. So it's been a long time since I really delved into these spaces. Sorry to keep you waiting. Yeah. So last I worked in these spaces actively was back in 2005, 2006. I used to work at Yahoo, was part of a fancy group called Strategic Data Research. We would look at large amounts of data and then from there help us predict which ads would get clicked, right? Like it's such an important humanitarian problem of what ads need the best or the most amount of clicking. But that said, I've both stayed in touch with technology, mentored folks in technology over the years, and been a curious and keen observer. And I think my guess is that about a month back, there was a panel on AI in tech at an ACT summit. And Madhukar thought I made some sense there. So he's like, Mekin, can you please come and do this? I'm like, okay, fine, I'm happy to do this. Like I said, this is not my core work. I have collected information from people who are currently working on the space and are somewhat experts. But I think I also want to state that a lot of this is work in progress. This is a very current field where the rate of change is very high, right? That the difference between GPT-3 and GPT-4 is massive, and the speed at which they are getting developed is quite rapid, right? So we'll start off this talk with, for the first time since ChatGPT went live, last month was the first time where traffic fell, right? Matlab, otherwise it's been on a crazy rise, a lot of interest, a lot of people wanting to use it more and more. It's been compared to, oh, it is the Google of our times. Would anyone want to take a guess what happened this month? Why did ChatGPT's traffic fall? Bard, Bing, okay. What else? I'll give you one more clue. ChatGPT's traffic fell and Minecraft's traffic went up. What happened? Yes. I think this room is probably best aware of what and when this happens. But it's useful to figure that the most important or the largest use case of ChatGPT has been to do homework. It's like, hey, when you have an AI assistant that can do your homework for you, Why would you? Right? And that fall, and I'm sorry I'm talking to a bunch of professors here in the audience, but and you can say, hey, can you make this answer plagiarism undetectable? Can you make this answer funny? Can you make this sound more like me? You can train the AI to be able to say things that you would say versus just regurgitating whatever is on the web, right? So, but and I'd want all of you to keep this thought at the back of your mind that we have we have such amazing technology available, and the most we've used it for is homework assignments, right? That's the largest use case. Um, and I think I don't have to talk to this group about the importance of doing your homework yourself, right? Or the intention behind homework or assignments, and what it does to enable learning. So that is stuff that in this audience, I feel you folks know more than a lot more than me. Okay, so let's jump into the theory of okay, how might AI benefit education, right? There is this utopian promise of personalized learning, right? And like we would all love it, but is it happening? Are there signs that you see personalized learning starting to happen? I, I feel like the answer is still out there, that at scale this is yet to happen. Uh, it's there are individuals who've been able to leverage AI to support them, to help them, as in there are companies that like Newton and few others who are able to help you find your gaps, right? That hey, what are the learning level gaps, and then be able to focus a lot more on those gaps, right? Which is not very different from adaptive learning, which has been happening. Like Newton is not a new company. Newton is almost a 20-year-old company, which has been doing adaptive learning that based on, hey, if you got this question wrong, and if this is the kind of mistake you made, then I will give you a different kind of question to really try and assess where and what might the gap be, so that, and then I can offer you a snippet or offer you a tutorial that helps you bridge that gap. So I think now the, the technologist in me thinks that this is possible, right? But to actually build this, right, requires a lot of student-centric or customer-centric, empathetic product building, which is yet to happen. Like there is a lot of technology building that's happening, but hey, what would it take for a student to not feel pressured, for a student to not feel judged, and actually be able to use AI as a tool that helps them grow? I think that piece requires learning. And to me, this is not very different from back in 2004-5, CMU opened up its tech lectures, right? And as a young engineer, I was very excited that, oh, like the best professors in computer science have opened up their lectures. This will change the level of computer science graduates across the world. Uh, I was 24 then. I'm just telling you how naive I was because nothing happened, right? There was Coursera, there was Udacity, there was a large number of MOOCs that were born, which were supposed to reinvent education. And I think they worked very well for the top 8% who are self-motivated, right? 8% is a more liberal percentage of completion rates. That even after paying for a course, yeah. So, like I said, I'm being more liberal. There are a few organizations that are able to achieve 8% on paid courses, right? So that people who are paying for their courses, but only 8% of them finish, right? And online learning is back to basically taking a classroom online, right? what is now branded as cohort-based learning, CBCs, or which is basically a class, right? So we are doing same wine, new bottle, but the and in my head the gap is in in educationists thinking about learners, learning about technology, and doing this product building, right? The technology I feel offers the possibility, but we're still some distance from actually being able to create something that will meaningfully impact learning for a large number of people. And the third piece here, automation of administrative tasks. I'm like, hell yes, let's get this done as soon as possible. And the largest piece here that comes, and this is from a teacher's lens, right? Because we haven't trusted our students with administrative tasks. Um, Provocative statement meant to be there that, hey, I don't know why we haven't trusted our students with administrative tasks, but we rely on our teachers and we rely on our faculty to do our administrative tasks. And there are a bunch of those that can actually be done using technology, and AI can do them much better now. But it's not a replacement, right? So teachers who are able to leverage AI for grading and assessing are able to do things as much as 90% faster, right? And assessment and grading is a very large part of many teachers' lives. So that offers something that's probably a lot more promising. So the first thing or the most impactful thing that I would hope that AI can generate in the short run is teachers' time, right? That, hey, teachers have more time to be able to spend time with learners, to be able to research and learn themselves, and use AI to do most of the grading while they supervise it. I think there is a lot of else that's possible, but to me the last point, which is AI's ability to enhance access, right, feels very powerful, right? In a world where, and especially in India, where, like, I think again a liberal number of what percentage of Indians speak English, maybe in the 4 to 5% range, right? To be able to make a lot of content learning accessible with use of AI. So AI being used to translate, to understand, to comprehend, to then be able to respond and translate back. That loop of not being dependent on content generation to happen in your language, and yet for it to start making sense, right? And I think, like, Google Translate's been trying it for a while. I feel we are, at least in this domain, we are now close, where if we have forgiving students who don't mind the stupid mistakes that the AI is making in doing the translation, they can get access to a lot more. Right? So those two for me, the automation of administrative tasks and the enhanced access, feel here and now. The personalized learning, I feel, is possible, but will require many entrepreneurs to experiment, and some of them might actually be able to do it. And when they are able to do it, right, we'll hit the first and largest negative impact of AI, at least in the short run, which is that the rich who can afford personalized tutors served by AI will actually be able to probably learn a lot faster, right? So, like, what happens when there are people who had access and who didn't? And I think most of us saw this very vividly during COVID, especially if you worked with government school systems or affordable private school systems in India. The impact of COVID on learning was a great example of this divide, right? My own kids, I felt they learned a lot. I have now a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. During COVID, they were 2 years younger. Their research capabilities, their, as in time on internet, zoomed up, but they were able to figure out and learn a whole bunch of things themselves. But as in, On an average, the government school kids we were working with had access to a WhatsApp phone for half an hour in a day, right? And not their phone. It's when the breadwinner comes back home and they are willing to give it to you, and the son might get it before the daughter, or the daughter may not get it, was like, hey, thank you, was a small, very small percentage of people who had regular access to technology. Right? So access to tech and then access to premium tech, right? As entrepreneurs create technology that can actually really, really enable learning, and that's priced high, as it should be, because it's impacting something that's very valuable, will possibly create a fairly large negative impact. I think the one I want to talk next is the fourth point there, which is bias and lack of transparency. AI or ChatGPT, let's start with ChatGPT, and most of the generative AI models today are basically what are called large language models, right? They're trained by the content that exists in the world. The content that exists in the world generally says a man should go out and earn and a woman should stay at home and do the household chores, right? And that is, as in, while ChatGPT is not this obvious in its biases, you go 3 levels deeper, and you will find these biases. It is, and it's happening because it is leveraging, it is using what already exists. Generative AI, by definition, is majoritarian, right? That whatever exists today is what it is trained on, right? So it will repeat or it will regurgitate everything that exists today. So for all the change makers in the room, AI is going to be your next biggest hurdle, which, when compounded with the WhatsApp University, right, makes change making or makes awareness like a lot more harder. Because unfortunately, we do not question the WhatsApp forwards that we get. We are even less likely as society to question what AI is saying. Right? ChatGPT ने बोला है, मतलब how can it be wrong? It's researched the entire internet, and after that, it's providing you this answer. So I feel like everything that is controversial, that is up for debate, that needs to be questioned, that you would want to think about in the change-making process, that, hey, is this the world we want? Are all questions that AI is probably not going to do a good job of enabling young people to ask those questions, right? And that's possibly one of the largest damages that something like AI could do, which is reduce questioning, which is to reduce thinking about, hey, what happens from a majoritarian point of view? Is that what is supposed to happen? Or do we just accept those as norms and not question them? Yeah, I can spend time at some of these, but I'd much rather move ahead and talk about often the elephant in the room when talking about AI and education is assessments and cheating. Right? So homework was already a good example and the largest use case of ChatGPT, enough that holidays lead to the first fall. Chess has been a space that's actually operated and used AI almost for the last 20 years, right? And benefited significantly from it. Like chess learning has zoomed up. I learned and I've played significantly with AI, and I have improved my game a lot thanks to the AI that exists. And it's able to tell me that, hey, here was an opportunity where you should have gone for the rook instead of the bishop move you made. And here we had a 21-year-old, very, very young, prodigal chess champion, Magnus Carlsen, accusing a 19-year-old, saying that they had AI help, right? And they're like, hey, The guy is saying, I'm willing to play naked, right? Uh, and Magnus is like, no, it doesn't matter. He might have it embedded somewhere, but he had AI help. Without AI help, he could not have. And because we are at a point where AI will beat human beings in chess, right? Any day. And that's, and I'd like you to hold that thought that there are some things that AI can do much, much better than human beings. And while it's great for the training program, right, that for us to learn using AI, is that what we want to be assessed based on? Right? I'll just hold that thought. I'll come back to it, or maybe start off with this. By the way, quick disclaimers: these previous slides were generated by ChatGPT. Uh, right? So, so this is not stuff that I created, but this is stuff that ChatGPT is decently good at. What it is not good at is this. Right? This is my view, and I think we will increasingly need to publish our views as this is a human's view, or ideally, and there is actually active lobbying happening around ensuring that everything that AI generates is watermarked with this is AI generated, right? And we don't know where that will go, right? And unlike a lot of other technologies that human beings have been able to regulate, this feels dangerously hard to regulate because access to it is very, very widespread. Yeah, so in my view, I think the larger impacts of education are the possible reduction in ability to think, discern, and hence to learn, right? So if students aren't doing their homework themselves, they are not having to think, they are not having to research. What that leads to is that when they are in situations that require them to think, when they are in situations that there isn't enough work already done and hence enough research available, which you could have used. So ChatGPT will not give you an answer for, hey, what's the best way to terraform Mars, right? Because it's not been done, right? And now, if a learner has to think about, hey, what may be good ways, what are ideas, how do I brainstorm, how do I come up with options, it's going to be hard. Because we've like this training process of people going through this process will get hampered and hindered significantly because you have a ready answer provider. In my opinion, that second point is actually much larger, and even though it's not directly educational, right? It is the customer's view. It is the Minecraft versus ChatGPT graph, right? That AI's ability to increase distractions for young and old is massive, right? So those memes of human beings hooked to their devices and sucked in completely while artificial intelligence is busy learning, right? Feel reasonably true. My 12-year-old is hooked to Minecraft. And it's like every dinner invitation is a negotiation, right? That, oh, 5 minutes, just this endpoint or just this milestone, and then I will come. Right? So the level of distraction, if you call it distraction, is massive, and I don't think we as educationists have respected our students and learners enough to build things that are as exciting for them, right? They love Minecraft because it is exciting. Like the joy they get when they build something on Minecraft is huge, right? But I don't think we've built stuff, right? We've built applications that are as engaging and as exciting as Minecraft that could compete for their attention. And I feel we are like on a scale of 1 to 100, if Minecraft is at 40 and future AI could take you to 80, educational applications are at 1. And sorry, I'm being ruthless, but our ability to engage learners, right, and like really, really interest them is very poor. We are not customer centric. We are not student centric in our design. Um, I think to the view of that Magnus Carlsen's accusation, right? That hey, instead of competing uh, against AI, if you could compete with support of AI, right? So what does AI plus human potential look like versus just what does human potential look like? And these debates have happened a long time in the past, right? So whether it is, hey, should a calculator be used in an exam or should we have open book assessments? And we know that hey, more progressive educational organizations have taken the view that let there be an open book exam. Let the calculator be available, right? Let technology be an aid, and then let's see what gets created, right? And what gets created is probably far superior, far better than what humans alone would have done, or AI alone would have done. So, so if we were to imagine that hey, we don't have to assess the learner alone, and we are willing to assess how the learner is able to use technology and create something that's probably far superior, we might have a far more promising world than the sterile world of someone saying, hey, I will play naked. Right? Because we'll get down to that. You will, like, we frisk people when they walk into exam centers. So that path is open. Yeah, I've talked about this, that the like very large adoption of current forms of LLMs will lead to a lot more majoritarian thinking, right? A lot less questioning. So that's a great tool in the hands of WhatsApp University to generate content much more faster at much lower costs, right? So that's something for us to be aware of. And for us to again think about like, hey, how can we use AI? How can change makers use AI? Just like the WhatsApp University folks use AI, right? So that's something to think about. Yeah, the title had jobs as well. I have 5 minutes to go, so I'll actually not get into this space. All of this is ChatGPT answering, so you can ask these questions and as well, right? That hey, which jobs are least at risk? What jobs get impacted most by AI? Yeah, I'd like to leave all of us with these two questions, right? That both academia and industry have depended on what someone knows, right? We assess that through exams and assessments. We are assessing, hey, what you know. Or in a job interview, like how well can you answer? And it's limited by what you can communicate. So first, we are limited by what you know. And second, we are limited by what your communication capabilities are. And no wonder why communication is like an inordinately large part of our world, right? And because our education and jobs and like here our learning process and our evaluation processes are based on communication and language, right? At a very core level, we are very, very susceptible to, forgive the word, an attack by LLMs, right? Because that is what they are good at. The AI has far more access to language, right, and can learn that far better than we can. Provocative thought, we'll leave it open-ended. I don't know where it goes. I don't know what the answers are, but I do want to offer an idea, right, that like when do we shift to what can one do versus what does one know, right? And there are significant gaps between knowing and doing. Knowing the right thing is not the same as doing the right thing. Like it requires courage, it requires care, it requires empathy, it requires independent thinking, it requires grit. And this list is not complete. It requires a lot more than just knowing that, yes, and I was talking to Ankur in the morning, right, that hey, 8 and 9-year-olds in Gujarat suffer from substance abuse, right? And its substance is readily available. Now that information We have known about Punjab for years. Have we cared enough to do something about it? And knowing is not the same as doing. So, like, we can continue to assess our young people on what do they know, right? But hey, what civilization are we building? All right. Thank you, everyone. I would. Yeah. So perfect. Okay. I've been given time for 2 questions. Yes.
Related to this
Okay.
is that
No, we didn't.
it's on.
They want it recorded. Yeah.
Like, what is this? Because, as you said, like calculator and everything, and we have had industrial revolution before this. This is the so-called fourth AI, fourth
Fourth
IR,
IR.
right? And so there were fears of mass production and reproduction before this, the same fear, right? So what is it that is distinctive about AI? And I think one of the factors is that the machines can now learn, right, in a way that it surpasses human intelligence, human emotions, and sentiments, right? And of course, that learning is facilitated by humans. And I think the
So
second
far.
part, yes, and exactly. So it'll be an autopoietic thing.
Chatbots now talk to each other.
Correct,
There are
exactly.
enough chatbots that can take commands from other chatbots.
Right. But you know, but the second thing I think is that what is AI challenging? That is, I think, from a philosophical point of view, is very interesting because it is challenging, in my opinion, this anthropocentric view that we are the epitome of civilization, we are the epitome of everything. So I would want us to think a bit about that because it's challenging this whole humanistic, fervor that we have cherished especially from the 19th century. And then it is kind of saying that no, there are possibilities of human-machine interactions, and people are challenging Anthropocene. So it's part of that. If we can think about AI from this ecological perspective as well, I think then it might help us think about how we can, imagine it differently. Because one is the climate crisis has brought about this challenge to Anthropocene, and then this machinic interactions. So this anthropocentric view, I think, is important from a philosophical point of view.
Yeah. So first, so thank you for making that point. I have heard that very rarely, right? I was at a climate event 2 days back, and it does not show up there. I feel, and I've been both part of and now close investor, etc., at tech companies, right? And I do not see the people there, the people who work there, thinking this way. I feel it needs a lot more simplification and accessibility for a lot more people to be able to understand what this alternative or what this alternate view might mean. I feel I need to sit and reflect and okay.
Maybe
does
it's
this actually play?
interdisciplinarity more than simplification that's needed.
Possibly.
It's a multidisciplinary perspective on AI and not just the technological part.
So I agree with the multidisciplinarity, but if you do want mass adoption, unfortunately, you also do need simplification. Right?
Yes.
That's just the reality of the world we live in. Yeah. You had a sorry. Okay. You will have to help me now. Yes.
Can I try and help out also?
Please, go ahead.
So I think there's a reason as to why they haven't conflated the two, and anthropocentric is really the word, so thank you for bringing that in. And the reason is because so far education has been linked to productivity, meaning then getting a job. The economy and generally the environment, the planet, is at some sort of endpoint of how much can we mine this, right? How much more productivity can we expect? So there's a crisis in terms of the link between education and getting a job, meaning all the things we trained for, we may not be training for anymore because frankly, we don't know what the jobs are. And that is just the reality of where we are. And therefore, if the goal of work or learning is not to be more productive, then what is the goal? And of course, this is a great list, and in many ways, the goal is to train for life, not for a job. But so far, we've instrumentalized this sector so badly that we forgot that point. So maybe that's why they don't come into focus, because how can you admit that we can't be yet more productive?
Yeah, thank you for the reflection, but I feel like very soon we should and we would get to like, hey, what is the purpose of life? And I don't think there are great answers, or there are commonly held beliefs around, hey, why do we exist and why are we so so important? So I feel thank you to both of you for those comments. I feel it brought in a very, very new flavor to this conversation. Thank you so much, and with that, back to you from a time point of view.
Mekin is going to be moderating the next session. He's
don't know
around. Is this on? Yeah.
Now it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he will be around, and please feel free to catch hold of him. I'm offering on your behalf. I hope that's okay.
So I'm here today.
So thank you, Mekin, for sharing that. And I think a key takeaway for me is to enable consumers of AI to be active and actively question what AI throws at you rather than just be passive listeners and consumers. That's what I took away. And like I said, please do feel free to share your thoughts with him on our whiteboards with us in the break.